What's going on, guys? ShadowNinja here, and today we are going to be talking about what we got yesterday, Destiny 2 The Forsaken, that dropped September 4th. We got a lot of good stuff. I am very excited. I recently hopped back into Destiny 2. At first, I really played the game for a month and then just dropped off, didn't really care for it. Recently, I got the expansions, played it out, played the raids. Having a hell of a time. The game is very fun, very enjoyable, and if you just stepped away from Destiny and you haven't got the DLC, definitely get the DLC, hop back in, you're gonna have a great time. But without further ado, let's talk about Destiny 2 The Forsaken and what this is. Now, if you played Destiny 1, it's gonna pretty much be similar to the Taken King, and it's gonna bring a lot of new elements, a lot of changes to the game as a whole, and that's very exciting. Now, first things first, the setting of this will be the Rift. It is a long forgotten setting per se. The Rift was in the House of Wolves DLC in Destiny 1. We really didn't get too much of it, but pretty much they talked about that this DLC, they want to feel like a Western. It's going to be a revenge, darker story, tone-wise, not story, but tone-wise, and the Guardians will have a different role rather than, I guess you could say, being protectors of light. That's very interesting. So the brief synopsis we got per se that they talked about is that there is going to be a big prison break. Cade has been filling a prison with really bad people, so when things break loose, all worlds are in trouble. And yeah, not only the Rift, but pretty much all worlds, all locations in the solar system seem to be troubled by these bad guys. The location they talked about was the Tangled Shore, a collection of asteroids full of pirates, assassins, and a lawless place. This place looks pretty interesting. Now, they described it as like they combine these asteroids together, change them up to form pieces of land, and I thought that was pretty cool, pretty fascinating. And I'm looking forward to pretty much traveling throughout this whole new location, checking out things, and fighting a new faction. And the new faction we got is pretty much what I gathered, the Scorn. Now, the Scorn is pretty much a new faction. They described them as being aggressive and always charging. Now, the upper guys of the Scorn per se is called the Barons. These are the top guys. It's kind of a reverse Magnificent 7. Now, if you don't know what the Magnificent 7 is, it's pretty much two movies. One's a original, one's a reboot, and it's pretty much a Western. These 7 cowboys, and they perform good deeds. They said it's a reverse, so expect these guys to do really bad things. But they've talked about how these Barons will bring an interesting dynamic when fighting them. So they use examples like if you're sniping. If this Baron's a sniper specialist per se, then you're going to have a very intense sniping battle. If this guy is a melee guy type of guy and is a big brute, you're going to have to you have to keep your distance and you'll be charging at all times. They had these Baron hunt things, which they described, so I'm guessing it's going to be like side quests or like maybe weekly stuff. Sounds really interesting, sounds really intriguing. There's a lot to work with there, and I'm pretty excited for that. Now, something surprising is that we're getting a new weapon system per se. Now, what I call the KEP system is still there. That is the kinetic energy power weapons. However, the stuff that categorizes in the kinetic and energy weapons are changing. Shotguns and snipers, from what I see in the trailer, are in the kinetic and energy side of things. Now, I don't know if snipers, but I'm pretty sure maybe so you can have a sniper as a kinetic. Now, the thing that was really interesting about that was that they said you can have, if you really wanted to, 3 shotguns: a kinetic shotgun, an energy shotgun, and a power shotgun. Now, what would that do to the game? I don't know. It's very interesting to see. Will this be broken, unbalanced? I don't know. A lot of stuff that they kind of want to break the game for the players, make it just ridiculous and over the top. Now, I don't think that will be playing to the guns. Definitely more in the supers. We'll talk about that really soon. But yeah, they talked about how you can have 3 shotguns. Now, I don't think these shotguns are going to be as powerful as power shotguns, but only time can tell. And they also talked about every weapon will feel pretty different. They're bringing back like variables and randoms to the guns. Let's see how that goes. Let's see if they're really truthful to the words. I highly doubt it. But they also talked about weapon leveling is also back. Excited for that. Basically, you're going to have to spend time with your weapon, earn XP, and rank up to get certain, I guess you could say, traits in the gun. Now, when talking about the supers, we're going to get, ideally, looks like 9 total new supers, 3 for each class and 1 for each elemental damage, the Arc, Void, and Solar. Looks pretty exciting. We saw the Hunter have pretty much a spiral knife tossing in every single direction, just throwing hella knives. Might look annoying, but looks ridiculous, and it looks pretty fun. We also saw the Warlock having like a dash kind of thing where he dashes around, gets invisible, and the next thing you know, just like, it's kind of like, they described it as anime and look very anime, and he just stops, explodes a big burst of energy around, kind of like, just like he goes Super Saiyan kind of per se, not really Super Saiyan, but you know, that burst of energy once Goku goes Super Saiyan is there. And the Titan had like a longer solar hammer. They showed a bunch of other stuff too with the supers, we didn't get every single elemental. There's still 3 missing we didn't see, but they talked about how they want to have it a little ridiculous, a little over the top, maybe a little bit broken for, I guess you say, the enjoyment of the player, and I kind of like that. Hopefully it's not too crazy, too ridiculous, but yeah. They also talked about a new weapon type, pretty much a bow and arrow. Now at first I'm like, oh god, not this again, but from what we saw, they described it as it's a strong per se. If you use this effectively, you feel like a godlike per se. There's going to be strong, short, medium, and long range types. So only time could tell. This looks very interesting. I do like bow and arrows in games when done right, especially in Far Cry per se. But in some games I don't really like it. Let's see if I like it in Destiny 2. But only time could tell with that one. Now, pretty much a bigger part of this video will be talking about this new game mode that's coming. I really would call it a Crucible game mode, but kind of not Crucible. They talked about it being a PvE and PvP blend called Gambit. The start of it, basically you get to see the other team, you get to taunt with them, do emotes, dance, but pretty much you're locked in 2 separate arenas for the most part. I'll get into why I say most part. And you basically got to fight enemies, and when those enemies drop motes, use that mopes, you can send those, you can cash in those motes to send blockers that slow down the other team. So I guess it's kind of a race to the finish. You do that, you collect your motes, you get to the finish line, you kill the big baddie per se, and you cash out and you win the round. They said round, not game, so who knows how that's going to be, how competitive it's going to be. Really interested, really looking forward to this. And another reason I'm looking forward to this is that there's a PvP aspect where one player from each team is allowed during the round to basically go to the other side and mess them up. Now they can activate the super on them, they can hit them with a rocket and kill them. Now if you die, you obviously come back to life, but I'm pretty sure you lose those motes you carry, and I guess you could take that and take it back. So it's pretty interesting. I'm really looking forward to that. And let's see what it does. It looks like a very promising mode. They had a new character too with it, so pretty excited for that. Now the last thing to talk about is pretty much they talked about the raid. We didn't get so much visual details per se of what's going to be in the raid, obviously, because I want to keep that a secret until it releases or they have a little tease and whatever what they show. But they talked about how this will be a back to an epic adventure to slay a big monster. There is more bosses than ever, and this is pretty much going to be one of the biggest. They kind of made it seem like this is going to be the biggest raid ever they put out there yet. So the setting is called the Dreaming City. It is a in-game destination and is pretty much the awoken homeland. Pretty interesting. Now, it looks beautiful and stunning, and honestly, I want to be there and just spend all my time there. And it looks huge. And if it's an in-world destination, I want to see what they do with it in general. It looks very interesting. It's pretty much going to be a different dynamic per se. Now they talked about if Voltaglass and Dreadnought had a baby, or I guess you say twins, it will be the Dreaming City. And that's pretty much a big statement, because the Voltaglass, as you know, is pretty much the all-time GOAT of raids. Nothing compares to it. So let's see if this Dreaming City can give it a run for its money. But they also talked about how the raiders, talking about the players in itself, will affect the destination, and it will change over time, and it will change for everyone. So that is very interesting. So I'm guessing a lot of things are gonna be cut off, and if Guardians find like a secret passage over here, then we all, as Guardians or players of the game, can use it. And I really like that. And I want to see more. I want to hear more about this raid. The raid part was definitely by far the most exciting stuff about this reveal. As we all know, the raids are pretty much the saving grace of Destiny, and pretty much the big wows of Destiny, especially with the Voltaglass. Now the last thing, which is pretty much small, but for us collectors, especially like me, I like collecting things, but I kind of really haven't gotten into it because Destiny 2 has really not a good system at telling us what to do. They're adding a collection tracker per se, so you can see the weapons, gears, and even how to get them per se, as they described. Same thing with triumphs. Pretty much these are records, what you've done, and a lot of good old stuff of you did this, so you earn this, stuff like that. Pretty interesting. It's gonna add a different dynamic for a lot of people that just maybe find things you can't really do, and sometimes Destiny does get very repetitive, and the fact that they're adding a lot more when challenging stuff, things for people to do, is a great sign for keeping players enjoyable and keeping the replayability up there. And last but not least, we're getting new exotics, like obviously, but they've also said that they got pretty ridiculous with the new exotics, that they're going over the top, maybe too over the top, that they maybe do agree that they maybe need to tone it down a little bit, but they don't really care. So excited to see what these new exotics brings. Will we get the return of the Galahorn, maybe especially the return of the Galahorn. Do we get the return of the Galahorn, maybe the Thorn or something like that? Only time can tell. Only time can tell. Who knows? But again, this drops September 4th. And when the reveal happened, they showed like you need the Destiny base game, the expansion 1, expansion 2 to get to play this. I was a little bummed by that, but then I recently saw a tweet like literally not a few minutes ago that said that that there will be allowing additions out there that people can buy that offers everything in one package, one bundle. So that's nice to hear. Don't split the player base that drastically. If you allow new people to come in and play everything all at once, so that's very good to hear. And we also got big thing. I didn't even talk about this in general. I don't know why I'm even at the end of the video, but we saw that there is 600 light level and 500 rank level per se. So they're adding 20, 30. They're adding 20 new levels as a whole, and nearly 200 and something light levels. That's very intriguing, very interesting. Probably adding 200 because when the harder version of the recent raid comes out, they're probably gonna up the rate light to 400. But yeah, pretty interesting. A lot of good stuff we got out of this. I'm very excited for this DLC. Pretty much I was looking forward to this reveal in E3, but this came as a pleasant surprise, so pretty interesting. I'm going to be talking about what we get from Call of Duty. We're having a Call of Duty live stream Thursday. I'm not going to be there, unfortunately, because they don't invite me to these things, but whatever, that's besides the point. I pretty much shouldn't complain about that because I got a small following, but yeah, that is way besides the point. But I'm going to be covering that Thursday, so be tuned and stay tuned for that. And for more Destiny 2 news with the Forsaken and anything else, subscribe to the channel, be greatly appreciated. Also do a lot of other stuff with Rainbow Six Siege and Battlefield as a franchise. I'm used to do Fortnite, but I backed off that train a little bit. It's not really fun anymore, but that's all besides the point. So subscribe for more great stuff, and like this video if you're learning a lot of things. Greatly appreciate it. That's all I got for this one. ShadowNinja here, and I'm out.